And that's how it was, without a scare, without an announcement. That one day she said, while sewing lace, "I'm starting my going out dress." I was distracted, taking care of the plants. I didn't understand. "Go where, Grandma?" She looked up over her glasses and answered with the calm of someone who already knew. "For the wake, mine." I remained silent. My heart sank, but my mouth met no resistance. "And why now?" She shrugged tenderly. "Because I still have time, and I like to look good wherever I go." Have you ever met someone like that, who faced life without fear of the end? The chosen fabric was white, made of firm cotton, with simple lace and pearly buttons. A fabric that had been stored for years in a brown paper envelope, marked with her handwriting. "Save it for goodbye, but don't be scared. It's all there." The dress, the note, the prayer. That late afternoon, she looked at us with fearless eyes. "You helped me live, now help me leave." And that's how it was, without any scares, without any shocks. She left during the night, while the stove was still heating water for the last cup of tea, asleep, as if she already knew it was time. Have you ever seen someone leave so peacefully? At the wake, we put on the dress with all the care she taught us. It looked beautiful on her, simple, calm, hers. And everyone who passed by said, "Looks like she's home." And it was, because that dress was the final home, which she sewed with her own hands. That's when we opened the note and read what was written in her small handwriting. "I don't want long sadness. I want good memories and a low voice. If you can, tell a story of mine that makes someone smile. That's how I want to stay." And that's what we did. We laughed, we remembered, and we cried with gratitude, because in that dress she had also sewn our mourning with sweetness. On the day of the wake, the community hall was filled with silence, but not the heavy silence of unreconciled grief. It was a silence that welcomed, that respected, that remembered who she was. A presence that didn't need to be shouted to be felt. She was there, in the center, dressed with her own care. The white dress her hands had shaped fell over her body like a salute to peace. No artificial flowers, no excessive makeup, just her, with her embroidered cross, her hair tied simply, and her face light, as if she'd just fallen asleep, after much love. People arrived slowly. They touched the fabric with reverence. Did she do it herself? Many asked, with tears in their eyes. And I answered, every stitch, every fold, every button, she chose everything. As if she knew that even though she was leaving, she wanted to stay. It's been a long time since my grandmother left, but curiously, I never felt its absence as emptiness. I felt it as an edge, as a well-made hem, as a firm point that supports. She taught me that dying isn't about disappearing, it's about changing places, and that our lives need to be sewn with intention, from the first stitch to the last, including the last. Today, when I think of her, I don't see her departure as pain. I see it as a last dress sewn with faith. I see it as the courage of someone who left nothing to anyone, the weight of decision. I see it as the most beautiful gesture of love I've ever witnessed, preparing one's own departure with beauty and leaving behind a legacy of lessons, to live with serenity until the end. When someone asks me why I sew so much, why I write carefully, why I iron the fabrics the way I do, I answer, because I was raised by a woman who sewed her own wake, like someone who embroiders a poem. And when my time comes, I want to be dressed as myself, just like her, with what represents me, with what I was, with what I left in others. Because my grandmother taught me that it's not the clothes that dress the body, It's the soul that dresses the sewing. And that's how she lives on in me, sewn forever into my memories, with invisible thread, but an eternal stitch. If this story touched your heart, comment below where you're listening from. And tell me, have you met someone like this? Who even taught us how to leave? Subscribe to the Grandma's Diaries channel. Activate the bell to receive future stories. And leave a like to share this thread of memories with more people. In the next episode, we'll visit the farm kitchen and discover how coffee, brewed in a cloth, preserved its memory and flavor in the same pot. Every story is a thread, every memory an embroidery in time. Then I understood. She didn't await death with sadness. She prepared her departure with the same tenderness with which she made a trousseau, with the same care with which she embroidered kitchen towels, with steady hands, without a tremor, and a heart at peace. I want to leave with clothes that suit me, he said. Neither luxury nor poverty, just me, sewn with faith. She spread the fabric on the table and smoothed it with both hands. We don't say goodbye in silence. We say goodbye by sewing together what was beautiful. Each part of the dress bore a symbol. The sleeves were short, like the dresses she wore to church when she was young. The collar was rounded, like the one on the blouse he wore when he met my grandfather. The hem was simple, but with a small embroidery of lavender sprigs. It's a plant of calm, he said, and I want to take calm with me. With each stitch, she recounted a memory, and more than just sewing fabric, she stitched together her own past. Stitched together her own past. Here, I use a full stitch because it was a time of plenty. Here, an invisible stitch because there was pain that no one saw. Here, a double stitch. That's when I needed the most strength. She sewed by speaking. She sewed by remembering. And each thread that passed was a story, told with the lightness of someone who has made peace with time. For my grandmother, sewing was always more than a job. It was a way of communicating with God. And with the dress, it was no different. Each time she threaded the needle through the cloth, she murmured soft words. It wasn't a memorized prayer. It was an improvised prayer. The kind of prayer someone would speak to the divine, like someone telling a secret. Lord, give me a firm hand and a light heart. May this cloth be a hug for those who look at me in my rest. May my departure not hurt more than it needs to. She sewed with faith, not just because she believed in the future, but because she wanted to leave at peace with the present. The clothes of those who depart must carry silence, but also tenderness, he said, because we don't just leave behind a body, we leave behind memories, and may they be light. Can you imagine a faith like that? So deep that even saying goodbye becomes a prayer. I learned that faith can also dwell in the fabric, that prayer can be a stitch, and that there are garments that don't clothe the body. They clothe the soul. It wasn't morbidity, it was maturity. She said she didn't want to be a hassle. No rush, no improvisation. She wanted everything ready. My way, with my own hands. And I stood there, not knowing whether to admire courage or delicacy more. When you sew your own farewell, he said, you understand that living well is also preparing your own silence with beauty. And it continued. With each stitch, he left a mark of himself, not to be remembered with sadness, but with reverence. Once finished, the dress was folded carefully, like folding a hug. My grandmother chose a light-colored wooden box. She lined it with an old floral scarf and placed the dress inside, along with lavender sachets and a note folded in 4. He sealed it with white tape and put it in the back of his dresser. It's ready. Now I can live the rest with more ease. I asked if it wasn't strange to leave it in plain sight. She smiled. It's strange to pretend that death doesn't exist. I just made peace with it, and that's what struck me. The peace, the absence of fear, the attention to detail. Have you made peace with what you can't control? The box became a symbol. Whenever someone arrived sad, she would say, "Come here. Do you want to see what I'm preparing for later?" And it showed. Not as someone who shocks, but as someone who teaches. As someone who says, we can choose the end with sweetness. And the box remained there, quiet, but full of meaning. It was like an altar of farewell that had not yet arrived. Like a message left with thread and faith. And I, who once feared death as darkness, began to see it as my grandmother did. A part of the fabric of life. A final stitch sewn with gratitude. She finished the dress on a cloudy afternoon. The sky didn't threaten rain, but it wasn't smiling either. It was just like her. Serene. "Come here," he called, the dress in his hands. "I want to see if it fits." I helped him dress. It was simple, beautiful, and light. It closed in the back with 3 buttons, which she sewed herself with white thread. She looked at herself in the bedroom mirror, the old one, with the worn wooden frame, and smiled. "I'm ready." I had a lump in my throat. "Don't say that, Grandma." She looked at me sweetly and said, "You don't understand, girl. It's not about dying. It's about being at peace with life." And I am. Inside the box, along with the dress, was a note folded in 4. For months, no one knew what was written there. It was her secret, guarded with the same care she guarded her special recipes. We only discovered the contents the day we had to open the box. But before that, life went on, and she continued sewing other things, dishcloths, aprons, clothes for her grandchildren. But whenever he finished a piece, he would look at the dresser where the box was and smile, as if he had completed a mission. "Now everything I do is a gift," he said, "because the main thing is already done." And he continued living, but with a different lightness, as if he had freed himself from a weight he didn't even know he was carrying. Have you ever felt that freedom? Of having made peace with the inevitable. She became even more affectionate, more present, more attentive to the small details of everyday life, as if each day were a bonus, and each gesture an early farewell, but without sadness. "When we accept that we're going to leave," he said one day, "we learn to live better." And I saw it in her. A serenity that came from within, a peace that radiated to everyone around her. The dress in the box wasn't a symbol of death. It was a symbol of a life well lived and well ended. There was no surprise. She fell ill during a mild autumn. The leaves in the yard fell slowly. The wind blew slowly. The sky was cloudy, but without threat. She became quieter, sleepier, but never sad. "I'm finishing the last stitches in here," he said, pointing to his heart. He didn't ask for doctors. He asked for silence. "I just want you guys around, and for the coffee to be hot, and for the laundry to be ready." He called my mother, my aunt, and me. He opened the dresser with hands that were already weaker. He handed over the box. Have you ever imagined someone sewing their own farewell dress? Today, I'm going to tell you about a grandmother who did just that. With calm, white thread and a handful of faith, she sewed the dress she would wear at her own funeral. Not out of sadness, but out of love for life and for her own farewell. If you believe that even the end can be beautifully stitched together, subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because this story will teach you that parting can also be an act of love. Take a deep breath, grab a hot tea, because we're going to journey together into a story that is both an end and a legacy. She was never afraid of death, not because she was cold, nor distant from the world's pain. On the contrary, she was made of empathy, sensitivity, and eyes that were moved by the slightest. But he had a way of looking at life and its end as part of a single embroidery, where each thread had its time, its knot, and its destiny.